It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. It's episode number 14 here in season number 3 and our second episode here in semester number 2. My name is Matt Mental in this week's edition. In segment number 2, we focus on women's basketball as they get ready for their matchup tonight at Marion. We'll be joined by Lindsay Smitsdorf. But up first, long overdue, a legend in wrestling here at Concordia University, Wisconsin. He founded the program back in the early 1990s. This is Brett Corner. He's currently an assistant coach for the wrestling program. And, Coach, thanks a lot for your time here on this Tuesday. I want to get right into it. And I guess, looking back throughout your career, throughout your lifetime in the sport, what's your earliest memory of either being involved or exposed to the sport of wrestling?
Well, my dad wrestled at Iowa State in the 50s, and we were kind of moving around as a family. And a legendary University of Wisconsin head coach, George Martin, called Harold Nichols at Iowa State and said he was looking for some people to come to Wisconsin and grow wrestling. And we moved to Wisconsin and settled in Cedarburg. And he immediately got the program rolling at Cedarburg and Kids Club. So myself and my brothers got in the Kids Club in Cedarburg in the late 60s and early 70s. And Cedarburg in the state of Wisconsin was a powerhouse in wrestling for that 10-year stretch. And so coming up and growing up with Cedarburg wrestling was where I really got into the sport.
So for you, were you instantly hooked to the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, it's kind of, you lived it. You're going to all the meets and you go to the practices, and then you get involved in youth wrestling. Got to be a big thing in Cedarburg growing up. You wanted to be involved in the wrestling program because it was the program was going to places that no other athletic team at Cedarburg had really kind of been to consistently year in and year out, and everybody kind of wanted to be involved in the wrestling program.
For you, was it always wrestling, or did you try other sports along the way?
Oh, I was in baseball, tried football. I was in track and pole vaulting. I like pole vaulting. It's kind of reckless, But baseball was probably one of my first loves other than wrestling.
So from a wrestling standpoint, though, you started competing at a very early age.
Yeah, I'd say started about 7 years old and started to go to tournaments like a year or two later, and been doing it ever since.
Well, as mentioned, then you competed at Cedarburg High School, and along with your brothers Jeff and Paul, you guys are in the Cedarburg High School Athletic Hall of Fame, and we'll talk all about Hall of Fames because this guy's in a number of them. But your memories from your time as a Bulldog?
Because the wrestling program was so strong, I remember in the mid-'70s, Cedarburg and Brookfield Central were two of the biggest teams in the Braveland Conference, and they were both ranked in the top 5 in the state. And when we'd have a home dual meet with Brookfield Central came to Cedarburg, it was standing room only and loud and close matches. And that's the kind of environment that I wanted to be in as a competitor. So at that point, I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. I'm like, I want to wrestle varsity at Cedarburg. That was like the first goal I ever set. So that's coming up in that environment. You just wanted to be in the middle of it.
Then collegiately, you wrestled at UW lacrosse, finishing as a 3-time NAIA All-American, which includes a second-place finish at the NAIA National Championships in 1986. What led you to UW lacrosse? And I guess, again, when we talk about memories, highlights, what are your highlights from your time as an Eagle?
Well, in the 80s, UW lacrosse was the Indians.
Indians,
okay. Yes, and then they changed to the Eagles late in the 80s, which I was part of the protests on campus for that, to keep it the Indians. But that didn't happen, and we're carrying around signs. We'll change when Cleveland does,
Which now they have.
Yes. But my older brother Jeff went to lacrosse. So I went there and visited him, and I'm like, it is a wonderful school, no doubt about it. And then I went there and really enjoyed the coach and all the guys, and it was a good wrestling program, and really give you an opportunity to start right away. And I was able to beat out whoever was in my weight class in the freshman year, and then I was able to start right away and had a lot of success in college, and I think that's kind of why I like being on the collegiate level.
And we talk about Hall of Fames. You were inducted to the UW Lacrosse Athletic Wall of Fame in 1998. But I want to bring up something I read in your bio that caught my eye. You were selected to the NAIA USA national team that visited China in June of 1986, the first collegiate team to tour China in any sport. Tell us about that experience.
That was something else. It's a long flight to get over there, and no U.S. team had ever been there. So when we went to Shanghai and Beijing in the mid-'80s, we'd get out of the bus, and we were instantly mobbed by hundreds of people.
Really?
They have never seen anybody from the United States, and our heavyweight was about 6'6". They've never seen a human being that big, So we were like, it was the only time I've really kind of ever been a celebrity. Was when you get out of the bus and you're mobbed and signing autographs and that. It was a great experience, and we saw like the Great Wall and Tiananmen Square and the Terracotta Soldiers in Xi'an was really cool. But we were there 2 weeks and had 4 dual meets and went 3-1, and the last one was a really a tight one against their Olympic hopefuls and that were working to get to their team for the '88 Olympics, and that one we pulled out, and it was a very memorable duel, and one of my probably my best match was my last one there in China in Shanghai in the last duel.
From a traveling standpoint, is that maybe one of the more memorable trips you've ever taken, or do you have a memorable trip as far as your competition goes?
That would probably be it. At lacrosse, we did not travel a lot, like hop on a plane or go anywhere, unless you're going to the national championship. So that's kind of something that I try to do with Concordia is give the guys a good collegiate experience and fundraise and take them places. But, as far as my collegiate career, the China trip was the most memorable. And in sports, of course, the national championships I was able to compete in.
When your time at UW Lacrosse came to a close, was that as far as competition goes for you? Was it straight into coaching, or how did that journey come about?
I coached a couple years at the high school level, and then I got into industrial sales shortly after that, and started that. But I kept driving by Concordia twice a day, and I really wanted to be on the collegiate level. So then I walked in one day and can't believe I'm still here.
And we're going to talk about that in a second, because I'm really curious to know how you go about starting a program from the ground up. But I want to bring up your dad, Dean, who was a pioneer in the sport of wrestling here in the state of Wisconsin. You mentioned he coached, over a decade plus at Cedarburg High School during the strong tenure at the high school with the Bulldogs, the program at its peak. He was inducted to the Wisconsin Wrestling Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Besides influencing you as a wrestler, did he have a big impact on you as far as coaching goes?
Well, he didn't take myself and my brothers aside much, and go over a lot. It's just that he was the head coach of the high school and the kids. So when you're going to practice, you're working and training under my dad. So, which is a lot to do for one person to do, the youth club and the high school. So we obviously owe everything that we've done in wrestling to our dad and getting us involved in the sport and working with us on that for sure.
All right, let's talk about 1991. Okay, you're driving by Concordia twice a day. I mean, where did the idea pop up that, hey, I want to start a wrestling program and Concordia is where I want to start it?
It was my friend Boo Brody. We were sitting around talking, and we wanted to coach on the collegiate level, and I'm like, I'm going to go over there and see what's going on at Concordia College. Concordia was only 750 students at the time. It was pretty small, and there wasn't that many sports. And I started a club for 2 years. So I would, buy singlets and throw the guys in my car and take them to tournaments. And then after 2 years,
it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And then after 2 years, I'm like, wow, I have to set an appointment with Dr. Book, because so I did, and I went into his office, and I'm like, I can't recruit kids to your school as a club. If you make it a sport, I'll be able to start recruiting. And Dr. Book is like, well, if I make it a sport, how many kids are you going to bring to my school? I said, I don't know, 10. And it was January already, so that was kind of a stretch. And He says, how many weight classes are there? I said, 10. And he said, well, you should get 2 per weight. You should get 20. And I immediately said, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to get 20. Oops, sorry. Because he's a pastor.
Sure.
And he's laughing. And I'm like, well, I tell you what, I'm going to probably get 12 or 13. And that's realistic. And I think that would be a good start. And then we'll go from there. He says, all right, let me think about it. So we're leaving his office, and I turn around and I go, if you make it a sport, I'll be here 20 years. And he's laughing and he's pushing me out of his office. And I'm like, all right. And I'm walking down the hallway and I'm like, I wonder how that went. Because I don't know. And then he called 2 weeks later and said, okay, we're going to do it. And then I started recruiting. I did get 12 that first year. And then we kind of, grew the roster from there throughout the 90s. So I owe a lot to Dr. Book. I mean, he took a chance on wrestling and me, and he supported wrestling and myself and getting the program going. So I'm very thankful to Dr. Book, no doubt about it.
And you were here 20-plus years. I mean, at least in the head coaching capacity, so good on you. But you look at those first few years, what were the challenges of starting a program? Did you have a lot of competition as far as in the recruiting game with area schools?
Yeah, it's kind of remained the same. If you're recruiting in Wisconsin, you're going to recruit against the state schools, but those are the guys you want to be competitive with because they're in the same division. So it doesn't prevent you from talking to recruits, even though they're thinking about going to a state school. So you just had to be aggressive, and it took a while to really get some good, high quality student athletes, and then we eventually did. Maybe mid to later in the 90s, but it was a lot of hard work. And like I was telling you before, we're sending out letters because the internet wasn't real strong back then. But it took a lot of work, and my assistant coaches helped me as well. But we still really started to get a deeper roster later in the 90s.
As far as the competition goes, the scheduling, what do you remember about the first couple of seasons?
Oh, it was rough. But we formed the Lake Michigan. The Lake Michigan Conference was part of the teams, and then we went to the commissioner, and they formed the wrestling part of it. And so we had a Lake Michigan Conference and in wrestling, and we had some success there. We won some conference titles in the 90s, so we were having some success, but in the conference. But I wanted to go higher and get kids to the national championships and try to get them on the podium. And you got to recruit, a higher level of student athletes in order to make the room elevate to another level. And it took a lot of work, but I would say everything really started to turn when Coach Cook and Sam Rugg got here in the early 2000s.
Just curious, what was the conference landscape when you first started? What did it look like? Were there a number of schools that had wrestling, or was that just an ongoing thing over the years? Additions.
It was small. I mean, we're talking about 5 or 6 schools. It's not like it is today. There may be 12 schools, so it was small. But and back then we were NAIA, so you'd go to an NAIA regional and qualify guys and go to the national tournament. So conference was important, no doubt about it. It was important, but in my mind, I wanted to compete on a national level and get guys to the national tournament. So I hate to say it, but conference is nice, but I was thinking a lot higher than that. And I think you have to if you want your teams to do well on a national level and think bigger, So I'm really thankful on how we did on the collegiate on the conference level, but we were always thinking to go to the national level and try to do well there.
You look at your 20-plus years at the helm, 9 team conference championships, 5 All-Americans, along with 51 individual conference champions in that time. You think back, and I know this could go on, and there's so many memories that probably, pop in your mind, but what are you most proud of when you think back at, just growing this program, watching it grow in those 2+ decades to where it is now? What are you most proud of when you think about what this program has overcome and what it's become?
Well, I think, winning conference titles is important, and I think it really brings the team together. And, one of my favorite memories was in 2006 when we were hosting it here, and Barnhill was doing the scoring, and it was very close, and it came down to heavyweight. And I know about halfway through the meet, Barnhill was like, I don't ever want to do this again. It was really close. And we were losing going into the last match of the day, which was the third place match with Hunter Six was his name, was wrestling, and he was losing 8-0 with a minute left in the third period, and he threw him and pinned him, and we won the conference title by 1 point.
No kidding.
Yeah, and we would have lost the conference title if he didn't do that.
Wow.
Yeah, so Rob had to review the scoring about 4 times to make sure it was correct, but it was correct. So that was exciting. And a lot of our conference tournaments came down to MSOE and Concordia in 1, 2, or 3 point differences. You know, they were all very close.
Should mention, too, you're part of the CUW Athletic Hall of Fame, inducted in 2018. And again, we'll go on. There's more to it. I mean, he's all over the place in the state of Wisconsin. When you think wrestling, you got to think of this guy, Brett Corner. How difficult was it? Was it difficult for you to step aside as the head coach following that 2011-12 season?
Well, I think I got older because I was wrestling around with the guys to age 48. And I'd always say that I was getting older, and the college guys were all staying the same age. and the last couple of years, I was just getting my butt kicked in the wrestling room. And I didn't want to go to the hospital or anything. You know. But I felt that I was getting out-recruited and wasn't having the time to recruit. And I felt that creating a full-time head wrestling coach position was something that the university needed to do. I think the university had been doing that over the years with many other sports, and it's something I wanted a young guy to come in and do that. And it took about 2 years, but I'm very grateful that the university did that. And then I stepped down, and we hired somebody to take over from there, and it's been good ever since.
You had Corey Van Grohl, and now it's Kevin Cook, the Concordia alum. How neat is it to see one of your former athletes take over this program?
It's awesome, and the guys, he's doing a great job. Fantastic. He's in his 5th year, and you can see the guys respond to him, and he loves this university. This university changed his life, and he really is all about creating opportunities for the wrestlers and student athletes and giving them a shot to be in the starting lineup and helping them grow. And he is probably more on the guys and how they're doing academically than I was. I thought I was on it, and Coach Cook is really working with the guys academically to make sure that they're moving in the right direction to graduate in 4 years. And I like everything that he's doing here. We couldn't have hired a better guy for our wrestling program, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I love his energy. And I know with you, you've wrestled, you've coached the sport, you've announced the sport on the Falcon Athletic Network. We hear great reviews of your announcing. Is there anything that you have not done in the sport of wrestling that you'd maybe like to try? Have you officiated?
Very little. But announcing, it's probably the one thing I like to do the best. And it's not play-by-play, though. It's move-by-move.
Move-by-move.
Yeah, that's the basketball stuff in football. But I enjoy doing that because, I may give an insight on what the coaches are thinking and what the wrestlers are thinking when they're up and down and what the bottom guy wants to do and what the top guy wants to do. And like we have a home meet on Thursday, the last one against Aurora. And I've grown to like it. I'm still kind of a rookie at it. Not like you. You've been doing it a few years. Yeah. But I'm a rookie at it, but I really enjoy doing that. And if there's really anything I haven't done in wrestling, believe me, I tried after being in it for about 50 years. So, yeah, I'm very happy with it, where I'm at right now.
I have to bring it up. This past November, you were inducted into the Wisconsin Wrestling Coaches Association Hall of Fame, joining your father, who was part of that Hall of Fame. You guys become the second father-son duo in the Hall of Fame. What does that honor mean to you to get that recognition back in November?
It's something else. I mean, it's not anything that you really try to do when you're coaching, but when you do get recognized for it, it's brought back some of the old wrestlers and their families that I know very well. And that induction in early November was a wonderful thing, and my whole family was there. They came from Texas, and my brother and my sister from Texas, and it was good reminiscing with the guys, and I really enjoyed that. And I didn't think that day was going to come because that's the elite wrestling Hall of Fame in the state of Wisconsin, and for wrestlers and coaches, and a lot of good guys that I've known and worked with in this sport in the state of Wisconsin. So that was was a wonderful thing.
Well, it's certainly well-deserved. Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the current team. As you mentioned, we'll be back in action. The wrestling squad will be in action on Thursday. You'll have the move-by-move Thursday, 7 o'clock against Aurora. Your assessment's on how this 2021-22 season's developing.
I think it's been up and down, but we have some good, high-quality student-athletes in the room that really I think a lot of teams that compete in a dual meet against Concordia right now have their hands full. And there's guys that are still growing throughout the year, but we got some hammers in the lineup that make things difficult for guys. And I like the team. I like working with the guys. And the one thing about this team that I just am stunned is that every guy on this team is coachable. And normally on any team and any athletic team, you have a couple that are not. And this team is, you know, and every guy that I talk to, and we talk about moves or mentality or things before the match, they listen and they look you in the eye, and they are all coachable. So I think Coach Cook's doing a great job with these guys, and they bust their butt for them, and I think they're a lot of fun to be around.
Well, Coach Corner, appreciate your time. As mentioned, long overdue. Happy to have you on our program and talking about the history of this wrestling program. All the success to you, continued success, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's Brett Corner, current assistant coach for the Concordia Falcon wrestling team. And when we come back, we'll turn our focus to women's basketball and talk with Lindsay Smitsdorf. You're tuned in to Falcon Focus.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We now focus on women's basketball as they get ready for their matchup tonight against the Marian University Sabres up in Fondy, and being joined by junior center Lindsay Smitsdorf from Coon Rapids, Minnesota. And let's start down that path. Tell us about your hometown, Coon Rapids, Minnesota.
Coon Rapids, yes. It's just about 20 minutes outside of the Twin Cities, and I've lived there my entire life, and now I'm down here.
And in high school, you know, you played golf.
I did.
Volleyball.
Yes.
All besides basketball. So did you ever consider maybe playing those sports at the college level, not basketball, or was it always basketball?
For some time, I was thinking about possibly doing golf, but then just toward the end, I just decided that I really love basketball, and I couldn't hang up the shoes quite yet. So.
And at the high school level, from a basketball standpoint, you hold the school record for most rebounds in a season, most rebounds in a career, along with most free throws made in a season. You know, when you think about those memories, what are you most proud of, and what are some of your highlights from your, high school playing days?
There are a ton of things that come to mind, but I would just say just the team that I had, it was so fun, and my junior and senior year, I was captain, and just being able to lead the girls under me and just having a lot of fun and being successful on the court at the same time was definitely something that I won't ever let go. So.
What was your high school's nickname, and who's your biggest rival?
So I went to Legacy Christian Academy, and our biggest rival was probably West Lutheran. We kind of went back and forth for each game, so that was always fun.
So when you ended up coming to Concordia, how did this school become your school of choice?
Well, Concordia was always on my radar for going to college, and just knowing that I could be on the team, play basketball, and do communication sciences. And there's a lot and my family's down here, so it just kind of just seemed like the correct fit. So.
You mentioned it just a second ago, but what is your major and what do you hope to do with that major one day?
Yeah, so I'm in communication sciences, and I'm hoping to be either a speech path for younger children, or I could go into audiology, but I'm still not quite decided on that yet, so I guess we just have to wait and see.
So you got time. You got
I have
time,
time, I do.
to come up with it. Now, from a basketball standpoint, your first collegiate basketball season was 2019-20. You played in all 26 games that season. You made one start. Did it take some time? You know, I ask this with every athlete, but did it take some time for you to transition from high school to collegiate basketball, or was it a smooth transition?
That's kind of a hard question. I would say that the transition was good. Like, I definitely learned a lot. The game is a lot quicker. The girls are a lot stronger, so it just took me some time just to get my body in shape, like in the college level, and not back in like the slower games for when I was in high school. So
When you look back at your freshman year, is there one game, is there one performance that stand out among the rest?
I would just say the game that I was able to start, and it was just something that, your first college start is always kind of fun,
Sure.
something that you aren't going to forget. So I would say for my freshman year, the start that I was able to have was super fun.
Of course, you're lucky enough to have been part of we're all lucky enough to be part of what has been a strange couple of
Yes.
years. But how different was last season? You know, the season didn't start game-wise until January, and even at that point, it was still a question mark, not knowing one week or another if a game would be played or not. How did you get through all the ups and downs of last season?
Yes, COVID, that was definitely interesting, and our practices started in October, so that was kind of hard just having practices throughout the first fall, and we didn't have games until, as you said, January, but just sticking together as a team and just hoping for a game, and luckily our school was fortunate enough to actually have some games, so that was good.
But the nice thing is for you, you didn't take much time to make your impact be felt right away. In fact, January 13th, 2021, a game at Laura, second game of last unique season. You scored 26 points, and that's one thing, but you went 11 of 12 from the field, on top of the fact you went 4 for 5 from the free throw line. And, you added 11 rebounds for the double-double performance. What are your recollections of that night? What worked that night?
That game was, of course, super fun, but just having the team vibe and just having some guards that were able to get me the ball down low and just going up strong and just trying to keep the momentum throughout the game. So,
how big for you personally was that from a confidence standpoint? Was that a big confidence booster?
I wouldn't say yes. Just when the game was done and then over, and then some people were talking about it and saying, like, super good job, and it just kind of helped me think, okay, like, I think now playing college basketball is something that I could be successful in if I kept on working hard. So that was kind of the start of that mentality. So
last year you finished with 10-plus rebounds 6 times with a high of 17. Certainly size helps, but do you have a certain approach, or how do you approach rebounding?
Rebounding, the only thing I think of is just try to get the ball and try to get it to a guard to go on the fast break. So I just try to find someone, box them out, and try my best. So that's really all I think about.
The Dennis Rodman of Concordia women's basketball right here, and we'll talk more about some of her ridiculous rebounding totals so far this season. But you come into now this year junior season, from a mindset standpoint, certain areas during the offseason that you focused on trying to improve in your game?
Yeah, the main thing just over the summer, I just tried to get in the best shape that I could, and then coming into the season, the weaknesses my sophomore year I tried to fix, and just getting a lot quicker, stronger, and that was the main focus on my off season.
Has your role with this team in the 3 seasons, has it pretty much stayed the same, or have you seen your role change one way or the other?
I think the main way that it changed is that now I'm trying to be someone like a mentor for the freshman and sophomore, just trying to be more of a leader on the court, and as well as being a leader and someone that the young girls can look to off the court.
Yeah, now you're of upper class status, so you have that seniority. So far, 14 games into this season, you're averaging over 10 points, over 11, almost 12 rebounds a game, averaging a double-double. You've recorded 5 double-doubles on the year. You've scored in double figures 8 times, including 13 in Friday's game here inside the John Book Fieldhouse against Concordia Chicago, giving the Falcons the unofficial CIT championship. And you've recorded 10-plus rebounds 9 times, including 21 at Concordia, Chicago. 21 is ridiculous. That game in November. Are you pleased to this point with how you're – we'll talk about the team in a second, but are you pleased with how you're playing right now?
Personally, yes. The few weeks ago, I had COVID, so that kind of hurt. That kind of hurt just like the ability that I had. But now I'm starting to go on more of like an uphill, and I'm just trying to get back to the way that I felt before COVID. So
I want to bring that up because that's an interesting point that I don't think many fans, viewers, take in account. So you missed some time, 3-4 games. Is it like riding a bike? Are you able to get right back out there and pick up where you left off, or does it take a little bit of time to get back up to speed?
Well, when I was okayed from COVID, I was hoping that I could just come out and feel perfectly fine, but it did take a couple days, some games to kind of get back in the swing of things. But now I think I'm totally back, and I don't think COVID is going to affect any more of the season for me, hopefully.
No, it's great, and I think that's an interesting point because, again, I think some people expect you to automatically come back and be the same player you were before, but it takes a little bit of time. And I mentioned the 21 rebound game. Have you ever had a game like that before?
I don't think so, no. Just looking back, a couple games that I've had have been good, but the 21 rebounds that game, that was fun. So
like a magnet, just the ball coming right to you, or you're going after that rebound. As a team, the Falcons right now sit with 9 victories, 6 defeats, 8-3 in conference play, coming off back-to-back wins against those teams down in River Forest, Illinois, knocking off both Dominican and Concordia, Chicago. When you look at where this, 15 games in, where do you feel this team is at right now?
I think the team right now is sitting at a super good spot. Of course, some bigger players came down with sickness or with like their knee injury, so that of course has been hard to try to work through. But I think now we kind of have a set routine. We have a set starting lineup now, and I think we're going to be good for the rest of the season.
Yeah, this Falcon team has been hit hard, as you mentioned, by injury and illness, and finding a way to get through different lineups, and now it's coming together, hopefully, here for this stretch run. Tonight, Falcons will be at Marion. Right now, the Sabres have 6 victories, 12 defeats, 4-8 in league play. What are you expecting tonight in that matchup with the Sabres?
I think the thing that the team just has to think about and the thing that we are expecting is just a lot of ball pressure. So the guards are going to do great. They're going to get through it, and I think we just have to focus on the team, just on ourselves a lot more than what our opponents are doing. We have to focus on Concordia, and I think we'll be fine.
For a player, for a student athlete right now, second semester is still relatively new. It's underway. Has that taken some getting used to, getting back into that different routine from where you guys were during winter room?
Yeah, during winter, your thing that you only think about is the team and basketball because that's all that there is. But now, and especially as being a junior, it kind of feels the same. I'm just going to classes, going to basketball, and keeping the same routine that I've had for the past few years. So.
And to wrap it all up, we mentioned tonight's game against Marion. With tonight, there are 5 regular season games left. Again, with the NAC tournament, the format has changed a little bit, and so all of a sudden that game on the 19th is a tournament game, no longer a regular season matchup against Lakeland. Opponent site to be determined. You have home games on Saturday against Benedictine, next Tuesday against Dominican. In your opinion, what do the Falcons need to do to make a run at both the regular season? There's still a chance for that regular season championship, but big picture, what do you guys have to do to make a run for that tournament championship?
Yes, the tournament is the goal at the end of the season, of course, but I think what we have to do is just take the momentum that the team got from our game on Friday against CUC. That was a super good game. I think that was a turning point for the season. So we just have to take that momentum and that energy and just continue it in the next few weeks.
Well, Lindsay, as always, thanks a lot for your time. Continued success, and we'll see you at least here in the John Book Fieldhouse on Saturday.
Yes, we will. Thank you for having me.
That's Lindsay Smitsdorf, and again, the women's basketball team will be in action tonight at Marion. Home Saturday against Benedictine. Next Tuesday against Dominican. The road ahead for Falcon women's basketball. That will do it for this week's edition. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday for Falcon Focus on the Falcon Athletic Network.